Right. Christina, I will control the slides for you, but I'll let you get to it if you want.
All right. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today just to participate in our webinar. I just wanted to mention, the webinar is going to be recorded, as Kate just mentioned. Hopefully everybody's okay with that. I think I'm supposed to ask if you're not, speak now or forever hold your peace or something I'm not a lawyer, right? Um, and we will place this on PCCD's website in a few days, so you'll have access to that. So just to start, the purpose of the webinar today is to discuss the current solicitation for Project Safe and Smart. My name is Christina Cosgrove-Brooks. I work in the Office of Research, Evaluation, and Strategic Policy Development at PCCD. And my co-presenter today is Dr. Kate Guastafaro, an assistant professor at New York University and an affiliate with Penn State's Child Maltreatment Solutions Network. So just for a little housekeeping, if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll have time at the end to answer any live questions that you may have. If you experience any technical issues, let us know in the chat as well. And just as a heads up, because of the competitive nature of these funds, any questions and answers that are provided during the webinar today will be listed on our on PCCD's Q&A website, just so that all applicants have all access, to the questions and the responses. There also may be questions that we're not able to answer today. If that's the case, we will get an answer for you and make sure everybody receives that answer as well. If you prefer to email questions to us, that you can do that on the address listed on the slide. All right. So just, what we're going to go over today, just a little bit of background on the funding, the project, the previous implementations of the project, a quick overview of both of the programs that are part of the project, and just some highlights of the funding announcement.
So I will just speak up to share the numbers and the data because that's my jam. So this is a paper that I did that looks at the prevalence of different types of child maltreatment across different age periods. And I apologize, it's a little fuzzy, but I have in the blue box there for you the focus of this funding announcement, which is child sexual abuse, and the prevalence between 2011 to 2020. The top line reflects ages 5 to 11. The gray line or in the middle is ages 12 to 17, and then the blue line at the bottom is ages 0 to 4. And I just want to pause to emphasize here that since 2011, the greatest prevalence of child sexual abuse happens to occur between the ages of 5 to 11. And that's a lot of justification for the work that we're doing and impetus for Project Safe and Smart.
All right, so just a little background now. It's back over to me. We're going to tag team this. So if you see it going back and forth, that's why. So just a little background. So this funding is being released through PCCD, through our Child Advocacy Center Advisory Committee, or CACAC, as we affectionately call it. In 2015, PCCD directed the CACAC to distribute and oversee Act 1 of 2013, which is also known as the Endowment Act. The funding was created as a result of the fine that was placed on Penn State by the NCAA because of Sandusky and everything that happened there. So the act dictates through 7 categories about what funding can be used for. This solicitation specifically is under the prevention category. So Penn State actually got involved, just a little history here, because and the Child Maltreatment Solutions Network got involved because they actually kept 12 million of the 60 million that was of the fine, and we were responsible for the 48 million. Sorry, my math at 9 a.m. in the morning. So since then, we've supported 2 different pilot projects. The first one started in 2018 and included 3 components. We just wrapped up one, although a lot of our sites extended until December. a project that included a school-based Safe Touches program and a parent-focused standalone program. As a result of the pilots, our committee actually suggested that we continue it. We want to continue it. As you can see on this slide, during the first iteration of the prevention program, we served a lot of adults, tons of second graders, and a lot of very specific parents. And so this last round, while we did not do the community component, we served, and I believe Kate will talk about that a little bit later, the number of second graders. Okay, sorry, as you can see the slide on the demo. Yep, we're getting there.
We will get there.
So the current project, okay, you want to talk about this, Kate?
I sure will. Okay, sorry, folks. Smooth as ever between Christina and Kate. So this is the first iteration of Project Safe and Smart, which was began in 2022 and is still ongoing because a couple sites are continuing through the end of 2024. But through that 2022-2024 funding announcement, we had 10 sites funded to implement both Safe Touches and Smarter Parents, Safer Kids, which are two universal primary prevention programs. With Safe Touches, and these numbers reflect the 22-23 and 23-24 academic years, all of our sites delivered Safe Touches to 1,708 second grade classrooms, reaching 33,089 second graders. In those workshops alone, we had 39 disclosures and made 31 specific reports to Childline. So those numbers always give me a little goosebumps. So I'm just noticing that someone is saying there's problems with the slide sharing. Are you seeing the Endowment Act slide right now with Safe Touches and Smarter Parents logos? Okay, thank you. Yeah. And then the Smarter Parents, Safer Kids Universal Parent Focused Workshop, the sites rolled that out really, I will say, in earnest at the beginning of 2024. And since then, we've had, these numbers are old, I put them together a couple weeks ago, but more than 131 workshops serving more than 329 parents.
So just a little overview before we get into the programs about this current solicitation, about the current project. We're again collaborating with the Child Maltreatment Solutions Network, which Dr. Guastafaro is a part of, and for a 2.5-year project, pilot project again. Both components of Smarter Parents and Safe Touches, which we'll talk about in a second, like I said, will be implemented throughout the 2.5-year period. The site-specific implementation, though, will depend on whether you're a current grantee that has been implementing it or whether you're brand new to the program. We plan, like I just said, to support a cohort of existing grantees to help them continue with the project, and also a bunch of new sites. We're hoping a lot of new sites will come on as well. Just like the previous two iterations, we're going to continue to implement research all throughout the implementation, and that's part of what makes this project different. It is different from anything else. If you've ever applied for PCCD funding before, it's more of a prescribed implementation and a collaborative effort between us, CMSN, and so you receive a lot more technical assistance as you go through it. What that means, though, is that the programs cannot be changed. So you will have to implement both of the programs and any of the prescribed implementations that we ask you to do. But like I said, it's a collaborative approach. We haven't had any issues with that previously. Everybody works together, which has actually been very successful and helpful for the existing sites. Eligibility for the funds, it's pretty broad. It's any community-based organization, and with school entities as well. Now I'm going to hand it over to Kate just to kind of go through some program-specific information.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to provide you an overview of the programs, and at the end of this, there's a list of citations for all of the research that I'm presenting in case that is helpful to you in talking to partners that you hope to engage or explaining it to other decision makers in your agency. All right, so Safe Touches, this is our evidence-based child-focused workshop that is delivered in the classroom. So that means a typical classroom size, not an auditorium. It is a 50-minute workshop. So Safe Touches is one single workshop. There is not multiple sessions. In the 50-minute workshop, kids learn and practice body safety concepts with the use of role play scenarios using racially ambiguous puppets. And in addition, so the body safety rules are to trust your feelings, try to say no, try to walk away, tell a trusted adult. I showed great restraint not doing the hand movements with that. I would just like you to know. So those are the body safety concepts that they learn and rehearse in those skits in the puppet workshop as well. Kids learn to identify their private parts on the body, but I want to be very clear with you that no anatomical body part names are used. We talk about private parts that are covered by a bathing suit, and we show a couple different types of bathing suits to reflect different types of bathing suits that people wear. Okay. They also learn the difference between safe and not safe touches, and then the importance of telling a trusted adult. And one of my favorite parts of the workshop is when the kids start to create a list of the trusted adults. And inevitably someone's like, is my dog a trusted adult? And it's always kind of fun to help them understand that. All right, so one of my greatest things about working with PCCD is their commitment to evidence-based programming, and Safe Touches is that. So the original trial that demonstrated the effectiveness of Safe Touches was a cluster randomized trial conducted in New York City with a low-income multiracial population where we compared, I was not involved with this, they compared the difference between those who received the workshop and those who didn't. And that study showed significant increases in child sexual abuse related knowledge, but the greatest gains were observed among second graders compared to third graders. So for that reason, in the initial implementation trial, which we refer to Safe and Healthy Communities Initiative, so that was between 2018 and 2021, we focused only on second grade classrooms. And over the course of 2 academic years in 5 counties, we reached 718 classrooms, 14,235 students. And I'll note that we reached a total of 58 school districts in these counties, which reflected 92% of all available school districts. And that, my friends, is unprecedented. So this was a huge endeavor, and these sites were really, really incredible. I did some data collection around the facilitators' perspectives, recognizing that, the use of puppets or focusing on elementary age students and child sexual abuse prevention is kind of maybe different than what they'd done before. And overall, I won't read you these quotes, you can do that yourself, but our facilitators really loved doing this. And I think that I can say at the beginning, they're a little, I have to use a puppet, and then by the end of it, they are just really reinforced by the fact that the kids watch the puppets, get it, and are able to employ those skills. All right. So we had an implementation reach of over 14,000 second graders, but we're doing research alongside of that. So not everybody who received the workshop ended up participating in the research. We ended up having a longitudinal cohort of 3,639 second graders who participated in the research. And while that number is smaller than 14,000, this is actually one of the largest numbers when it comes to child sexual abuse prevention research. So we conducted 4 assessment points prior to the workshop, right after the workshop, 6 months after, and then 12 months after. So we followed these kiddos into 3rd grade. And that was really the contribution of this work, to see if the gains were maintained. So we did find a significant increase in child sexual abuse related knowledge. But what was interesting is that there was a small but significant decline from right after the workshop to 6 months after. But then there was a statistically significant increase from 6 months to 12 months. And all of that was still above where they started. So I know that that's like a lot of science talk, but here's the in lay terms. Kids had a significant increase in their knowledge, and they maintained that increase over a year. So the contribution, as I said, was that we demonstrated the gains in knowledge made by Safe Touches were maintained for up to 12 months post-workshop. We did see some differences related to child's identified gender. Well, yeah, and the school district income and minority status. And these charts, like I could go into a whole lot more detail with you, but here's the takeaway from it. There was a significant difference by gender, minority status, and income at the beginning, but those differences went away over time. And so the takeaway and the message here is that any child, regardless of how they identify their income level or whether or not they're a minority status, like they can learn from this and everybody gets kind of the same level of knowledge. Okay, so part of our Safe and Healthy Communities initiative dealt with COVID, and our implementation plans for the 2019-2020 academic year were obviously interrupted by COVID. And so, you know, the lemons scenario here, we conducted just a pre-post test with students who received the workshop in 2019 and early 2020. So we saw a significant increase in each one of the survey items. So that's the table that you see here. Previously, I reported to you kind of like a mean score, an average score that increased. This is each in particular item on our measure, and we see a significant increase on each item. That means we're doing what I thought we were doing. Also, as part of the first project, we did a cost analysis, which is just to kind of estimate the actual cost of implementing the program. And this was the first of its kind. There had never been a cost analysis of a school-based child sexual abuse prevention program before. And this was a wild fun to do. Lots of numbers. What we found is that the cost per student is obviously lowest when a site is able to reach the most students. So the greater students they have, the lower the per kid cost. However, the cost is really driven by facilitators. So Safe Touches as designed requires 2 facilitators. We'll talk about some things moving forward, but that was the main driver of costs here. So as we're moving forward thing that we're talking about, I am in the process of conducting some research about a modified version of Safe Touches. This is motivated by the fact that the main driver of Safe Touches implementation, the cost, is the facilitator. And so what I'm studying is if we can achieve the same level of knowledge gains in 2nd graders by using one facilitator and pre-recorded puppet skits. So this is currently in the field and being tested, but I've done a preliminary pilot study to show that this doesn't hurt, and that was the goal. And so in collaboration with the purveyors of Safe Touches, we are moving forward in rolling out a one facilitator modified version of it. Are you doing this one or am I?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, great.
Yep. So Kate, thanks for mentioning the evidence-based component. Yeah, one of the things when we first received this funding at PCCD I mean, there's lots of programming out there, and we know that, um, but there wasn't a lot of evidence or not a lot of research on any kind of child sexual abuse prevention programming. So this is where this all started. Everything that we are doing has some type of evidence based, or it's evidence informed in some way. We've Dr. Guastavaro has published many papers on our previous implementation. So we just want to continue that, and which is why we're excited that we're hoping more sites come on. So because what we're seeing is that the existing sites, the schools love it. The schools love the program, and I know Kay will touch on the parenting component next. But yeah, so thanks for pointing that out. So one of the things we've only allowed in previously second grades, because that is where most of the evidence shows the greatest knowledge, as Kate said. However, this year, during this implementation, during this project, we are going to allow sites to expand anywhere from kindergarten to third grade. It's going to depend on, the site, what the school district wants to do. The only difference is going to be is how much staff you would need to implement in the program and to implement within the classroom. If you want to do K through kindergarten or first grade, you'll have to have 2 facilitators because you're going to have to be in the classroom. And I have an 8-year-old. He's in third grade, and I'm still not sure he would sit in front of a computer watching an implementation of this on site. But
sorry, Christina, I just want to clarify that so the second and third grade classrooms do have the option of the modified version of Safe Touches. You are still physically in the classroom conducting this workshop live, but you will be using pre-recorded puppet skits. So there's still just one person in the classroom compared to 2 people. And so kids are not at a computer by themselves. We are just projecting a pre-recorded puppet skit. So sorry, I just wanted to.
Sorry, no, good clarification. My apologies, because what I was saying was confusing. So, because of this, and we wanted to expand it as well, because we just want to serve as many kids as possible, right? So applicants that come in when you're applying, and you demonstrate that reach, that's really important. The other thing that's important, and if you've read the Word document, the funding announcement prior to this call, is that we've created what we call affectionately the Better Letter. It's a school entity letter that you can take to your school, and it basically provides them with an overview of what they're responsible for, like what specifically you'll be doing within the school. These letters are extremely important. This is how we did the 90-some% during that first year of school districts. They understand what you'll be doing in the classroom, and also if there's like a switch in superintendents or et cetera, you can go back and say, hey, but this person, signed this letter. So they're very helpful in getting that buy-in.
I'm gonna just pause for 1 second to answer and clarify a couple things. The videos are provided to you, and there is a script that facilitators follow. So new sites that come on board and have not previously used Safe Touches will first be trained to deliver the Safe Touches as usual, which requires the 2 facilitators in the classroom. And then once you do that, then we'll train you to do the modified version. I will leave it there. And the reason why we are only doing the modified version with second and third grade classrooms is because so the Safe Touches curriculum was developed for K through 3, but as I shared with you, the original trial was only conducted among second and third graders. There has not been research on K and 1. I have personally watched the workshop in kindergarten and first grade classrooms, so I feel confident in saying it's not doing any harm, but that will be a part of the research that we'll talk about and think through in this 25-27 funding announcement. And you are not required to reach all K through 3. This is where sites can be a little creative, but I would encourage you to think through what your what your schools and your sites need. And, we're just trying to open it up for more options, I think. So I see a question here. So this is the first time that we're rolling out the modified version, right? And I'm currently testing it. And so I struggle to think that there would be a site who wouldn't maybe want to have 2 facilitators trained anyway, even if you choose to only ever do the modified version, because you would have more reach. You would have somebody if there's a sick day. And I think, we've got people who've been funded before on the call. They can certainly tell you that having kind of like a stacked implementation team is a good idea for that reason. There's also turnover. And so I think if I were applying for this, I would have 2 staff trained no matter what. So that's kind of my answer to the as usual and modified versions. But maybe we can talk more about that as we get into the discussion. I'm going to transition. Is that all right, Christina?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So we got good things happening for kiddos. Now we're going to talk about parents. So all right. So parents are in general an extremely underutilized player in the prevention of child sexual abuse. And I'll say, like, my career is trying to change that. We broadly define parents here to really mean caregivers. And we're talking grandparents, aunts, anybody that has like a really significant role in raising a child. So Smarter Parents, Safer Kids is an adaptation from an evidence-informed selective curriculum. So that selective curriculum was the first thing that we did, designed for higher risk parents. And that one is called Smart Parents, Safe and Healthy Kids. But I adapted it for universal delivery, which I'll share with you because of the first Safe and Healthy Communities initiative. There was just a very clear need that parents wanted a evidence-based behavioral curriculum. And so that was really the impetus for this. So Smarter Parents, Safer Kids is a 120-minute workshop that is delivered in a group to caregivers of children under age 13. We cover 3 segments of information in that workshop. The first is about healthy sexual development. That's helping parents understand what developmental milestones to expect at different ages versus what might be a sign that something else has happened. And so helping them kind of reconcile a typical developmental milestone from a concerning behavior or something that we might want to follow up on. The second segment focuses on parent-child communication about sex, sexual development, and sexual abuse in an age-appropriate way. And the final component is a child safety segment. It focuses on safety inside the home, outside the home, and online. And I will just be very clear with you that this is not about gender identity, sexual orientation. This is about body parts, keeping kids safe, and really empowering the parents to create a protective environment. Okay. So the selective intervention, remember that's where I said we started, that was for higher risk parents. That's delivered to parents who are already enrolled in some type of parent support or parent education program. They get enrolled in those programs due to concerns about parenting deficits or other kind of concerns that might come through the school or child welfare. So we conducted a randomized controlled trial, which is the highest rigor you can have in developing an evidence base. We had 110 of these high-risk parents, and we saw a significant increase in child sexual abuse related awareness, which is the top figure there. The darker line are those who got the intervention, and a significant increase in the intention to use protective behavioral strategies. That's the bottom graph. Okay, so some summers ago, time is weird, I adapted that curriculum for universal delivery with using my students here at NYU. And the adaptation for universal delivery really focused on making it a group-based program. And we have delivered it, tested it, done it online and in person. The original pilot, we had 31 parents complete this study. So they had pre and post workshop assessments. This graph shows that we saw a significant increase in all of their, I don't want to say significant, we saw a validating increase in their knowledge from pre to post. And this shows evidence that this is a good thing to move forward. So the sites that are currently funded by the 22-24 funding announcement are helping to establish the evidence base of this as we speak. For 25-27, Christina, do you want me to do this?
Sure.
Or do you want?
Yep. So for this pilot, right, for this project that we're going to be doing, the parent component, the Smarter Parents, is going to be implemented throughout the entire project period. And what we would like is that applicants preference is going to be given for applicants that have a plan that feel that they will be able to serve at least 300 caregivers. You can do it online, in person, in small groups. It depends on the number of facilitators when you're doing this is going to depend on how many is in your group. Kate, would you say no more than 25 per group though, right? Like,
so it's a ratio of 1 to 10, and I'm
1 to 10.
pretty firm on that.
Yeah. And yeah, so you'll be doing that, and I will, and there will be a research component, of course. Like, as we were talking, like, this is, hopefully you're starting to understand like the collaborative nature of this project as Kate's talking. We really work hand in hand with everybody, and we want to continue to strengthen the evidence base of our pilot. I will also say that I've been through this. I've been through the program. I have an 8-year-old. Even working, I've been a PCCD 16 years. I learned things that were very helpful. I've used some of them most recently, used some of the things that I've learned. I love it. It's a great program. I will toot Kate's horn, but like there's no other program like this in the world. So we're very lucky here in Pennsylvania to have it. So I will say that. But yeah, so this one is going to be out throughout the 2.5 year project period. And like she said, in addition to this, there's a list of the research that she just talked about in that Word document funding announcement.
So for the 25-27 funding announcement that we're all here talking about, you can deliver the Smarter Parents workshop either online or in person. And the sites who are in this right now, we are learning a lot together. Figuring out the best ways to get people into this type of education. I know that people like it. I know that people want it. We've got hundreds of parents that have done it. It's just a little bit difficult in terms of marketing, right? Like, it's hard to be. So we are working on that, and my team helps brainstorm different strategies to try. So I'll say that. We are hoping that applicants would have a plan to serve a total of 300 caregivers over the course of 2.5 years. But please remember, and I'm very, very firm on this, that in order to maintain fidelity to Smarter Parents, you have to have a ratio of 1 to 10. Every workshop you complete an implementation form and you tell me the number of people that are in the workshop. So if you have more than 10 people, but only one facilitator, that doesn't have fidelity. And the reason I am so concerned about that is because it's group-based, it's conversation-driven. And if you have more than 10 people, it doesn't happen in the same kind of way. That's how they learn this information. So the actual curricula, for both Safe Touches and Smarter Parents are not available to people who have not been trained. That makes sense, right? Because you have to go through a specific training in order to use them. However, there are resources and published papers about them. And so if you are looking for something specifically, email the PCCD email, and if there's a way for us to make that happen, we can make that happen. I'm gonna save the more specific question about outreach until we get through the funding announcement questions. So I'll share it back to you, Christina.
All right. All right, so the solicitation's been open, and it's going to be closing on October the 11th. So you will want to go into eGrants, and you will want to start your application as soon as possible, just so you know all of the details and the requirements that need to be submitted within that. So these applications are going to be reviewed and scored by a team, like a independent review team that's going to review them for, the preferences, the priority considerations. We are releasing up to 3.5 million. That just depends on who comes in and what the review team thinks. Existing grantees are eligible for up to 200,000, and new sites are eligible for up to 250,000. We already talked about the eligible applicants. I think one of the strongest, the strongest applications are going to be those that establish a relationship with school districts. That's what makes this program successful. Getting the school districts on board and having those letters. We do understand that, there may be some that you're still working with prior to the due date. We would just ask that you would mention that in your application. For existing grantees, under the Endowment Act prevention category, their current implementation, the reach, engagement with PCCD and CMSN will be taken into consideration as well. You're required to implement both components. Like, you won't be able to select one and not the other. They all have to be implemented together. And then you also are going to have to commit to the research component and providing that information as you go through the project. Let me think what else. Yep, so submitted in eGrants, I said that. There's the sections that are in eGrants. One is the applicant overview. This is basically where you're going to tell us about who you are. Do you have experience implementing prevention? What relationships do you currently have? There's two separate sections, one for Safe Touches, that's going to ask about your relationship with school districts. What would be your plan if you are funded? Smarter Parents, that's very similar. If you've worked with parents before, and that doesn't preclude you from getting funded, but we just want to know, what your experience is or your organization's experience. Required attachments, that's where I call what we affectionately again call the better letter. That's where you'll want to input anything from the school districts. If you want to include additional letters of commitment or collaborations with other sites, other agencies that are going to assist you with like recruitment, especially with the parents, or they'll provide like in-kind places for you to implement the curriculum, you can include that as well. The budget, there's guidance that we provided in Appendix A on how to create your budget. Organizations can come in for 5% in an indirect cost. But just so you know, like once you submit that budget, and the review team is recommending you for funding, if we think that a funding should be modified, maybe more, there's too many staff, or there's not enough staff, or there's not enough workbooks, or et cetera, we will, your award will be conditioned based on you changing the funding around and working with us on that. So that's just an FYI, because I know that's something different that a lot of people aren't used to. Okay, so just some timelines. Yep, it's closes on the 11th. We said that. The review process then takes place. Whatever happens with the review team and what moves forward, PCCD staff will be taking that to our CACAC meeting on November 19th. After that meeting, and it happens in the morning, just FYI, if you want to reach out to us and say, hey, was I recommended by the committee or not, feel free to do so. However, there's still one other step that has to happen, and that goes to our actual commission, like the big commission, and that happens on December 11th. But we can discuss things with you and even start talking about budgets, et cetera, if you're recommended by our CACAC after that 19th, the November 19th. And then the projects will start on January 1st. The grant will start on January 1st of 2025. And again, it's 2.5 months.
So I'm gonna put up this slide. I want to just say to you that in sharing the work that every site and Christina, every staff member from PCCD, we had an opportunity to share this work with a prominent former prosecutor. I don't know what his title actually is, but he is a stickler, and he told me that he believes now that prevention is possible based on the work that we've done. And that made my life. So I put this at the end of all of my slides because I do really believe that the prevention of child sexual abuse is possible. So I'm going to leave this up here so that you have the email, which is at the top, to submit your questions. There's also the emails for Christina and myself, but I want to be really clear that Christina and I cannot answer site-specific questions. You need to submit them to the email at the top. Additionally, Christina and PCCD are the, kind of funders, the purveyors of this, and I get to be along for the ride and work on the implementation and research. So it's really important that you understand the decisions and the funding, and all of that is a PCCD kind of decision. So is that okay, Christina?
Yep.
Okay.
I think
so
we're good. We're ready for questions.
All right, so I'm gonna start with some questions in the chat. So the ways to reach out to parents. I see a couple familiar names in our audience. So if you want to share some of your secrets, you can do that. They're not secrets. I think it makes perfect sense to pair the offering of Smarter Parents with the delivery of Safe Touches. Lots of schools really seem to like that. But one of the things is that the Smarter Parents curriculum is open to parents outside of just the K-3 range. So want to be very clear about that. Other ways of reaching caregivers, again, this has kind of been a learning experience for us. It is a challenge with any type of universal prevention programming, but we have had partnerships with daycares so that they are providing daycare for kids while parents are in this workshop. We've partnered with YMCAs and had open kind of programming at the libraries. We've really been creative, and the reason why I'm saying we is this is very much a collaborative experience. And so I run monthly drop-in implementation meetings for the sites, and so we all get together. It's if you want to come and if you have questions, but that's a good place to learn from each other as well. So then in terms of what supplies need to be purchased to implement the programs, I believe those are listed in the funding announcement in the kind of budget page. There is a training cost for new sites for Safe Touches. For existing sites, that's different because you've already been trained. In terms of training for Smarter Parents, you're looking at the trainer, so that's free. Historically, what we've done is I come to Harrisburg and your sites have to come meet me there. So that usually works out for us. And then there are some materials required for Safe Touches. So there's puppets you need to purchase. You'll also need probably to buy a flash drive or something if you choose to use the modified version for 2nd and 3rd grade classrooms, because we'll give you those videos. And then there are workbooks that go home with every kiddo that receives Safe Touches. And those are both purchased in bulk. I think they're about $1.50 or so per kid. But that is part of the fidelity and implementation of that Safe Touches program. In terms of Smarter Parents, every parent gets a handbook. I don't have it handy, unfortunately, but I bind them. So this is something else, but it kind of looks like this, right? Like a spiral bound thing. But that's kind of expensive. And so if you want to put it in a 3-ring binder or just print out a bunch of pages, you can, but it's about 60 pages in printing. You can also provide it in PDF if you're doing it online. And in terms of other Smarter Parents materials, that's kind of it. Okay, sorry, scrolling. If awarded, are we able to bill the school districts, or are we offering these programs free of charge? Christina, that's
Yep, I got that. So, I mean, if you're awarded, like, so the funds are actually providing the implementation costs. So you shouldn't, like, it would be free of charge. Which is why we want, you put the facilitators in, travel costs, et cetera. So yeah, it's not something that you would bill the school district. That's an interesting sustainability option though. I don't know if school districts, would do that. I don't know of any that have, but that's an interesting sustainability component. But yes, it's free of charge because the grant will be paying for the facilitators' time and travel, et cetera, to implement.
And I just maybe in the spirit of the sustainability of Safe Touches, there was a completely separate funding announcement put out by PCCD this year that school entities could partner with community organizations to implement Safe Touches. And so there are other kind of mechanisms and approaches for delivering it. And I will share with you from my experience, schools really like that it is free, that it covers some of their required programming, and they really like that it's not asking their teachers to do another workshop. So that. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the PCCD website. In terms of, sorry, there's a lot of questions. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, I can take the next one.
Okay, great.
So yes, you do have to have 2 FTE. You could hire 2 to 3 people to fulfill that 2 FTE, but only the funds budgeted can only be used for the project. Like you can't hire 2 to 3 people and they can do other things with these funds. You would have to, at PCCD, we require timesheets. So that would have to be detailed out as well. So if that makes sense, like if that's what you were asking, but yeah, so you definitely need 2 FTE for this. But again, you could use it through, you could have 4 people doing 0.5 on the project, and that's fine too.
Yeah, every site that we have worked with since 2018 has done this differently. There are some sites who choose to hire dedicated full-time staff just for this project. And then there are sites that choose to kind of like split it up to cover other programming needs. I believe very strongly that that needs to be a site decision because there are competing demands. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. The cost for training for Safe Touches right now, so we use a train the trainer model for Safe Touches, and so the cost that's in there right now is a bit of a buffer, and so it will definitely cover you to have 2 people trained, and then those 2 people, once certified, will be able to train more people. And I think that's good there. And you definitely should be putting those training costs in the grant budget. Again, that is listed in the funding announcement. Do we have materials or a presentation that a community center can present to the school district? So in the yeah, I made a webinar. I talk to myself on Zoom often. And so I recorded myself kind of describing Safe Touches. I can do that again and provide it to PCCD and kind of explaining Safe Touches for schools. So yeah, I'm happy to do that. And then maybe I can do something similar with Smarter Parents.
Yeah, we have that on our website. I'll double check to see.
Yeah, we might want to revamp it a bit for the 25-27 options.
Okay.
But we can do that. So the Harrisburg portion, we tend to do any of our trainings that need to happen. So in terms of safe touches or smarter parents in Harrisburg, because historically that has been the most like equitable distance. It also has the biggest free meeting space that we can find, and that is important. So the travel for training should be included in your budget. And if it's not listed, I would strongly recommend that there's like, maybe 4 nights or 4 days of travel provided to Harrisburg for trainings between Safe Touches and Smarter Parents. The trainings are really only a day long, but if you are a site that's farther away, just pad there. That would be my suggestion. Right. So the training that we're talking about being in Harrisburg is in-person training. Any other trainings that we would ask you to do would be online and provided by Zoom. And the implementation meetings are obviously done on Zoom. This was a different experience when I was previously at Penn State, but now I'm at NYU. And so the power of Zoom makes this still possible. But yeah. Okay, any other things, or did I miss anything?
If you think of something afterwards, again, feel free to email the resource account and someone will get back to you.
And if you check out the Child Maltreatment Solutions Network website, you can learn a little bit more about the current sites that are offering these things. So you can see who's out there. If you know some friends, you can ask about it. And yeah, I think I want to say publicly and for the record, thank you to PCCD for supporting this work. It is a huge pleasure in this and a huge part of my career. So I love it, and I love working with you, Christina. So
Ditto. That's a good question. Yeah. So the Child Advocacy Center Advisory Committee was statutorily created in 2013. So I think it was Act 28 or 23. Yeah. So it's an appointed committee which is like PCCD has a bunch of committees, and that's one of them, and they're charged with distributing.
You do not need to be a member.
Oh no, to receive the funding. Yeah, that's correct. Yep, you don't have to be a member to get the funding. No.
And even though the name of CACAC, so it has Child Advocacy Center in that, not all awardees are child advocacy centers. You just want to kind of broaden that out as well. Other questions? I'm glad you've all had some questions though. Sometimes it's Christina, Rebecca, and I just kind of making questions up. Well, so I will go ahead and kind of like start to wrap this up. Like the slides I'll make available. Christina, you can have them, and then I'll send you the recording. And yep. I'm really just grateful that there are so many people on the call, and hopefully some interest in being a part of Project Safe and Smart 2025 to 2027. And thank you very much for your questions and attention.
Hopefully today, that's the goal. But I'm not the one who does it, so give us like a day.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.